You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the big show. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the other members of the family. The Chris Voss Show is an open family for everybody. Unless you're evil, then we don't like you as much and we put you in a corner. But, we bring the greatest authors, the greatest minds on the show, the people to share with you stories of life and enrich your soul, your mind, your body, and you just walk around with the Chris Voss Show glow all day long.
I like
the beautifulness that come with it. The Chris Voss Show glow. And people just wonder, they're like, how are you so amazing? You're like, I listened to the Chris Voss Show for the last 16 years. Well, we have an amazing young man on the show today. We're going to be talking about his insights, what he does, and how he can help make your life better as well. Mitch Carson is joining us on the show today, and he's done an amazing amount of things. For the past 30 years, he's helped hundreds of speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, and business owners worldwide land TV and radio interviews, boosting their credibility instantly and aiding them to charge premium prices for their products and services. He's a television show host on NBC Channel 3, Las Vegas. He knows what is done for him and his clients. And NBC. Sorry, I had to do the Howard Stern there. Mitch is also a celebrated professional speaker and closer who's spoken on stages in 63 countries and produced over 2,000 live events in 19 countries. He's been Home Shopping Network pitchman who knows how to sell anything and craft a unique message around any product, person, or event. Lastly, he's a published author with John Wiley & Sons, and his books have been published in 6 languages. Welcome to the show, Mitchell. How are you?
Great. I haven't been accused of being young in quite some time, so I'll send you a Christmas gift early.
There you go. That's why I do it, for the Christmas gifts. So, Mitch, give us your .coms. Where do you want people to follow you on the interwebs?
They can go to mitchcarson.com, and they can also, as a bonus of attending this podcast, live streaming podcast with Chris Voss and Mitch, they can get a free 30-minute media update on where they want to go with their media plan, and that's at getinterviewedguaranteed.com/meet with Mitch, and that is in the chat section. I don't know if all the listeners can see it, but you can.
There you go. So, Mitch, give us a 30,000 overview of your project that we're going to be promoting today, and maybe just, in your words, more of what you do.
I've been a seminar promoter for a number of years, and one of the things that I found was there are tons of content experts, people who are great at their particular niche, but they have no backing. They needed packaging. And I liken it to, you're about to engage yourself. So John is going up to Becky. No, I'm going to use Chris. Chris is going to Becky, his lifelong love, and gets down on one knee, is going to propose to Becky, and he's got this 1-carat ring wrapped in a Target bag. What is the reaction Becky's going to give Chris with this proposal? And that's what I found. A lot of speakers were marketed just like everybody else in a sea of mediocrity. So what I do for speakers, authors, coaches, and consultants, and in cases of CEOs who want to differentiate themselves in the market, I, through a strategic plan, lay out a way for them to then get back down on one knee. Imagine this again, Chris. You're begging Becky, but this time the box is wrapped in Tiffany blue and white paper. Your reaction is going to be a resounding yes. She wants to buy Chris, and they want to buy the speaker who is wrapped properly. If they've been interviewed on the Chris Voss Show, if they've been on my show, The Amazing Authorities, if they've been on Fox 5, if they've been on NBC, CBS, ABC, a variety of radio shows, newspapers, magazines, Entrepreneur Magazine, they can charge premium prices because they're justified to do so.
There you go. It's a value of your brand, right? Or something
Correct.
along those lines?
100%. How are you packaged? What are you wrapped in? What kind of package? And is it plain wrap paper, Target paper, which is an upsell from newspaper and how I used to wrap my books as a kid? Or you go all the way up to Tiffany paper? That changes resounding the perception that people have of you.
I'm just wearing my Chippendale thong right now. Does that count?
I knew it. I knew it was red and you were hiding it. I mean, you can show it at the halfway point. I understand.
That's how I get all the dollar bills, y'all.
Okay.
That's why I live in Vegas. I do my Chippendales work there on the side. You can find more about that on my OnlyFans. Anyway,
I knew it.
So tell us more about yourself. What was your upbringing? What got you into this field? You've talked about all the speaking you've done, all the books you've written, just all these amazing stories. And I know you've done some things with some amazing people. Tell us how you grew up and what influenced you and motivated you to get into the field you're in.
I will be totally transparent because at my young age of 63, I have nothing to lose. I don't hide behind pretenses. I was an only child. Both parents died when I was 22, 5 weeks apart.
Wow.
I started drinking excessively. And then after a year of doing that and some other things that were prescription based, I decided to stop. And I decided to change my life. And I had never spoken publicly at that point, was actually quite an introverted, shy person, bit of a bookworm. And through recovery, I learned in order to keep what I had been given through the love of others, I started to share about my experience with other people and what I had gone through so they could recover. And therein lies my story of my short version of why I do what I do, because I started speaking about it. And then after a while, someone in an audience said, "Hey, Mitch, have you ever considered doing this professionally?" And I said, "No, I do it for free to help other people. How would you like to get paid to do it?" I got invited on a first-class ticket from LA, where I grew up, to Seattle, spoke there to a group of mortgage brokers. And this was quite a few years ago, and 35 years ago. And I did very well. Sold $80,000 worth of advertising. I owned an advertising agency back then.
Oh, wow.
A promotional product started out, and then realized, okay, this works. One-to-many selling versus one-to-one. You don't do a podcast one-to-one. You're doing one to quite a few, Chris. That's the whole reason we do what we do. One-to-many is leverage.
Definitely. And so you've tell us some of the people you've worked from. I think you have a few different names of people you've worked with that people recognize.
Dan Kennedy was a client of mine, not in the speaking sense. I owned an ad agency in LA, and he was a client. I used to mail his newsletter, used to write a column in his newsletter. He's for some of the people who may not know who he is, he's an author of 40 plus books in the direct marketing field. He's quite a bit of a name. I've worked with Mark Victor Hansen, co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. I have many international people. Yeah. Do you know him? Remember the Chicken Soup for the Soul?
No, I just remember your bio, and you had a lot of great speakers you worked with.
Yeah. And, I shared the stage with Donald Trump once when before he became President Trump, he was Mr. Trump, but that was about 25 years ago. He came in on a helicopter and left the same way. Spoke, the hair never moved. They got back on the helicopter, went back to New York.
There you go. Zig Ziglar.
Yes.
Let's see. Tony Robbins, of course. Everyone knows Tony Robbins. And lots of great people that are on your thing.
Lord Sugar, yep. And also Sir Richard Branson in London.
That was the other one I was going to reference too. So there you go. So do you still do the TV, the Home
Shopping Network is for a brief stint in my life from 96 through 98. And that was the Super Bowl of selling. So it was 1 to 5 million. 1 to 5 million. And I had to sell. And that's why I feel confident I can wrap anybody in a box properly, put them in Tiffany paper and get them on TV. Once I understand how to shine their gem. Some people are rubies, some people are diamonds, whatever it is, I can buff them up, get them ready, speak in sound bites so they can enter the TV world, speak concisely, on point, and raise ratings, because that's what TV producers are after. How are good guests going to help me? It's hence our advertisers.
Definitely. And that makes all the difference in the world, raising the elevation of your brain or your brand and your brain, and people don't get it. And talking your media points, knowing what you talk about, one of the reasons we like having authors on the show and people that have high media impression rates or high media, what's the word I'm looking for? They have high media
credibility, standing.
Standing. That's what I'm looking for. And thank you. And so we like those people because they know their media talking points. They can hit all their talking points. And sometimes a lot of people write us that want to come on the show, and they're like, "So what are we going to talk about?" I'm like, "I don't know. Whatever you're selling. Do you know your media talking points? Like you have a book, right? Yeah. We should probably talk about your book, man. Like what the." And so that's why we really like having high quality guests on the show, is because they know their talking points. They'll hit their marks. I don't have to carry them through the show. It's a lot of work when you have to carry people.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. What makes you different than maybe others in your space? I don't know who else is doing your space, but what makes you better and different, I guess?
Better and different is it's certainly the fact that I guarantee results. Most publicists, because that's what I function as, publicists for authors and speakers, to get them on television to raise their credibility, will do one thing. They don't offer anything other than just to cash your check. And that shows my age by saying check as opposed to Zelle. They cash your check with a contract of 3 to 6 months, usually at $10,000 a month. Whereas people come in with a 2-day plan, and I get them on 4 network television shows, ABC, NBC, the CW, possibly Fox 5, and CBS, all 4 within 2 days, and a radio show. They're packaged correctly. We media train them, establish their questions that they're going to be asked. We practice, get them ready so they hit home runs every time. I've never had a failure. So I guarantee results, guarantee 4 TV stations. Most publicists will drip out maybe 1 show every quarter. And what I provide in 2 days usually takes $60,000 plus and about a year.
Wow.
Yes.
There you go.
So it's fast and guaranteed.
Jam it out. And then people are on fire, right? They're
on fire. And then they're leveraged to then use that media that we do right here, conduct an interview, it all in Las Vegas. And an ultimate mark where everybody wants to go. This is, let's say, the number 30 market in America, and expressed in terms of population. But the credibility of Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, will then be able to leverage this media capture to go to LA, which is number 2, and of course number 1 is New York. Everybody wants New York. And how do you get there? Do you think a producer is going to take a risk on an unknown person, or are they going to take a risk on Chris Voss, who's been doing podcasts for 16 years, ladies and gentlemen?
Exactly. People don't realize if you're bad at media and you make a bad appearance, it costs.
You're done.
It costs, it'll kill you, but it also costs, like, my audience will see a drop-off. If I get 2 bad guests in a row that are awful, boring, and all that stuff.
They judge you. Yeah.
They'll judge me, and they'll just be like, oh, I don't know, Chris is going downhill. And you're like, it was 2 bad ones in a row. That's 2,000 shows. What the fuck do you want from me? But, we'll notice that. And so fortunately, my audience is pretty loyal where we can skip through it. But, if you don't hit your marks, it costs, like, how people like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm like, no, it does. You can cost us subscribers and audience members. We lose credibility. They're like, oh, Chris is just having a bunch of amateurs on now. I guess all the good people don't want to come on the show. It hurts the reputation. And then, of course, like you said, no one's going to invite them on a show. Even now, I'll bring guests on that I'll see on a show. Like we've got I think it's New York Times or Washington. I think it's New York Times.
That's the ultimate. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a top journalist. She just wrote an amazing book about Amazon and kind of their unscrupulous business practices, doing an expose, and she's eating up the charts and eating up the media. And I saw her on one of the medias, and so I said, hey, I want her on the show, and now we've got her coming on the show. And, people like this raise the level of the value of the show, and they bring good media. And it's amazing to me how many people don't understand this concept that are out trying to get media. What is wrong with people? They're just uneducated, stupid, or both?
I think in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and we both have one eye that is working Chris, and they're just blind. And they're listening to their grandmother who says, you don't need to do that. Grandma, you're broke. You're on disability. And I'm going to listen to somebody who's been to the mountaintop. It's not someone that's looking up at it and has got to go to a chiropractor because their neck is hurting. So I'm going to listen to people that know it. And you've stayed the course, Chris. I mean, 16 years. My hat's off to you. You're wearing it, but I really
feel
commend.
my legs.
Yeah, I understand, but I can't. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, there's Advil for that, but you have to continue around pushing forward, and the naysayers are the naysayers, and you need to delete them from your life because we got one turn of the wheel here, and do it. Yep. I mean, I know a lot of your listeners have had the privilege of hearing authors on their show, and I'm a published author. A lot of people go to college. They get that. It's a nice diploma, a nice sheepskin to have. What's even more credible, in my opinion, because I did go to college, it took me 8 years to get through the process, but I did it, is when I wrote my first book. It is what separates somebody from the rest. A lot of people have BA or the BS for bullshit, but then to go to the next level to get an MBA, then to become a published author, potentially, that is a big deal. I mean, you've had how many authors on your shows? Oh, my gosh. And they are different. They're usually the super achievers, the people that don't listen, wear Teflon around their brains, so when people try to throw negativity at them, it just slides off. You talk about the Teflon Don, but they're the Teflon people. Teflon authors just have to get it done.
There you go. It's really true. You know, one of my problems I have in the business, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but a lot of people, they want to come on our show. I get hundreds of people asking to get on our show a month. And I think sometimes we got 1,000. And it's hard to go through, but a lot of people want to come on and they don't have any rep. I mean, like we get these coaches, and of course, you know, coaches have a big problem where they're working out of sometimes their car. You know, it's really hard to separate the good ones from the bad ones, at least knowing what's up front. And so, you know, it's a lot of them, or there's some people that were like, no, I don't think you're quite up to par for our show. It's not that we're being mean. It's just that we don't figure you can bring a good game. You know, sometimes I'll go watch their videos and I'm like, this person is awful on media and they're just going to kill the show. And so we'll say no, and they'll get upset and they'll be like, I've been on 100 podcasts.
So what?
Like, you've been on 100 podcasts that have 10 listeners and that have 10 episodes. You know, they have the same amount of episodes as listeners. You know, I don't go on podcasts unless they have 300 to 500 episodes. I just don't bother because I know how these work. I mean, unless it's like some celebrity or something like that, or, you know, some show that's run by, you know, some high-end thing.
Joe Rogan podcast or something.
Yeah, like Joe Rogan, or, you know, who's the
Entrepreneur on Fire.
Yeah. You know, something like that. But, I mean, they've got thousands of shows under the belt. But, you know, for the most part, I just kind of look and, you know, most shows don't make it past the first 25 shows. I mean, I think it's 120%, it's 99%. Basically, the stats are the first 80% of podcasts don't make it past episode 7. The 20% that survive, 80% of that 20% won't survive by episode 25. It's a zombie town of podcasting out there. So I have all these people who come on and they're like, I've been on 100 shows, and I'll go look at the shows and I'm like, there's only 10 people listening to that, man. If anybody, I think the mom is only listening to that show, but they all think they're media fucking savvy because they've gone on 100 shit shows. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I got a lot of thoughts. I mean, thank you for bringing that up. There is a major difference between, and this isn't, I mean, I just met you, but being on your show to be accepted because you vet people, you have to manage your personal brand. It's imperative. That's what feeds you and your family. You've got to manage this, and you have to look at people. We can only judge a book by its cover. Literally. You don't know what's inside until they go live, until the light turns on and says, we are live, and we're 20 minutes in. We don't know what's going on until then. And you have to look at how they're packaged. Have they taken the time to have a filled out LinkedIn profile? If they're an author, they better have a LinkedIn profile. They better have a YouTube channel. At minimum, those two. Are they on Facebook? Are they showing photos of them drinking alcohol and slapping butts? Or are they, being somewhat credible? I mean, it depends on where you are and what kind of people you're attracting, but they have to look the part.
Yeah, you got to look professional. Like I saw your one sheet, I think they call it, and your rep. I didn't really have to go look at your videos. I just saw your rep, and I'm like, he wouldn't be on stages with these people if he didn't have the chops.
Correct.
And that was it. But, like I said, I sometimes if I'm not sure about somebody, I'm like, they seem like they know what they're doing. And I'll go look at YouTube videos, and they're just awful. But I have so many arguments with people over this that, like, Chris, I have all these shows I've been on. And I'm like, yeah, I went and checked the shows. There's no one listening to that. You're just wasting, I'll tell people, you're wasting your time. How much is your time worth an hour? $400 an hour, $200 an hour? How much is your time worth an hour? Okay, so you just wasted an hour going on a show that has 6 listeners. Does that sound like it's, and you're not going to get any business from that.
It's quantity versus quality, isn't it?
Yeah. And so it's just insane to me, but they actually think that they're doing something. What's that old thing about activity doesn't equal progress? You could just be spinning your wheels.
Yeah, because the hamster on the wheel, and it's quality. I got pitched earlier today by a company. You may know them, but I'll leave their name out. Who says, for $20,000, I'll put you on 15 perfectly matched podcasts for you. I thought, wow, 20 grand? And I just swallowed. I thought, okay, one of them will include, possibly Entrepreneur on Fire. They might know connections there. Yeah, of course it is. John Lee Dumas. He's certainly big. He charges $4,000 to get on his show, supposedly.
Does he really? Wow.
That's why it was mentioned. I don't know how true that is. Maybe that's just
raise our prices.
Yeah, sticker shock. Yeah, but it was interesting. So they have maybe that's their price vetting, because people who are broke probably don't have a well-developed media profile. And they, like you mentioned, the coach that lives in his car. Yeah, he's starting out. I mean, we all start out. Dude, some of us have more humble beginnings than others.
It's fine. But, the other thing is I don't want to platform somebody who's not good at what they do. No. And I'm not being an asshole. But maybe I'm being an asshole. But I don't want to sell someone to my audience that's going to, kind of rip them off. Maybe not intentionally, but rip them off at not being good at what they do. And I think it's my responsibility to not platform people that are awful. Somebody always asks me why I don't have certain political people on the show. We've had governors and Congress people and stuff, but we have the ones that are mentally stable. And they're like, why don't you have the other guys on the show? They make for such great shows. And I'm like, no, I'm not platforming that ugliness, that toxicity. That's not my show. And there's plenty of other outlets for them, but I'm not getting that shit on me. But yeah, you and I should do a whole show about how not to be a stupid podcast guest who thinks that getting on.
How about a media guest from the? I was a radio show host in L.A. and I've had people, Chris, who've come up. I'll tell you this one story. A buddy of mine asked. I had a show on CBS Radio in L.A. 97.1. This is 20 plus years ago. He married this new hot blonde. She was 5'11". She walked into a room. The whole room would shift and look at her because she had purchased huge ones. And she walked into the radio show, and there were 4 mics around the square. The engineer was in the booth. This was CBS Radio, and it was all about real estate. I was the host for my client. I hosted the show talking about real estate, and she was a Calabasas real estate professional and sold high-end homes. I thought this woman who walked very confidently would be incredibly effective on air. But when that red light turned on and said on air, she turned into a weeping child. She imploded. Think of the Wicked Witch from the West, where the water went on, I'm dying, I'm melting. That's what happened in Wizard of Oz. Yeah, I'm melting. And she melted into a child, blubbering, crying. And this was radio. We're on video and audio. This was only radio. This was about 2005. And she just died right there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to make sure people are trained. I could never have her on again. And she just died. I had to do her whole pitch and her show for her. Her 15-minute claim to fame was Mitch's flubbing it.
You had to do the carry, man, where you have to carry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've been there.
That is so much work. So much work. So let's tie this into what you do now. You help people get gigs on real places that actually have more than 5 viewers. Tell us more about that.
Let's just say if I were to get them on CBS on my show, which has live viewers, 4,000 to 5,000 people. Now, as you know, you live in Vegas part-time. It's a 24/7 city. This is a unique city. So you have viewers literally 24/7 because of the gaming industry. People are watching this. They might be sitting in casinos. They might be sitting at home. It might be an early riser. It's a 24/7 city. So we have on each channel 4,000, 6,000 active live viewers. Clients of mine have come through here and have picked up clients. Is it a guarantee? No. But what I do guarantee is exposure in a professional studio. Like when you walk in to ABC Television, the Morning Blend show here over on, what street is it on? Oh, I'm blanking. But anyway, it's over here in Vegas. And you walk in, there are two professional hosts dressed to the nines, male, female. They work together and they are scripted. They're ready. We've already answered all the questions in advance. You've got all of it prepared. And I've already gone through what they're going to ask, how to answer with the client. So they walk in prepared. You can't wing it. Yeah. Winging it is failure. You can wing it. I can wing it because we've got years of experience. Oh, yeah. Most people, if you're a first timer to live TV, you wing it. That's a recipe for disaster and embarrassment for me and a disaster for me because I can't bring guests back. I am, as a publicist, I am evaluated based on the quality of my guests. If I refer somebody to the Chris Voss show, I can guarantee you they've been trained already, and they will be effective guests. Yes, I can refer quality
I've yelled at a few publicists over.
I'm sure you have, but this would be, you're very easygoing and relaxed as a host. Yeah. You're very comfortable in your role. You're not constricted by a 4-minute rule with somebody in your ear when they're in studio because they got to cut the commercial right away. You may have commercials in your show. I don't know what your arrangement is. But then on TV, it's faster. It's all about money. Boom, boom, they got to get, boom, boom, boom. Even when I have my radio show, it was an hour-long show. 37 minutes of it was actual content. The rest was paid advertisers under contract nationwide with CBS. It was Clear Channel back then. It was all part of that conglomerate, and they had plugged-in ads. It had to be inserted no matter what. They would just cut you off. You know when you're going to be cut off. Okay, 30 seconds. Boom, right to ad. It's money. It's a business.
Wrap that shit, man. Wrap it.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up. So, the quality of guests is very important. I'm just curious, what have you seen as good quality guests?
I mean, we get the people that come from Simon Schuster, Penguin Random House, all the hottest book authors coming off the shelves, and those people are usually trained by someone at their firm, usually, and the top people like yourself that are speakers, CEOs usually come on and do well. But yeah, we really like the book authors because they've spent 10,000 hours, million hours, whatever, writing a book. They should know their chops. Although I've had some
surprises.
I've had some authors blank on the show. They'll be like, "It says here on the book you have the top 5 things for how to be successful in this. Give us a tease out on those," and they'll blank. And they're just, I'm like, dude, you wrote this book. You spent hundreds of hours in editing, but it happens. I mean, I blank on the show.
Ghostwriter.
Oh, that explains what that was. Now it's all making sense. Wow.
Ghostwriter. They just wanted to fish.
That explains that story.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
Wow. That's what that was. There you go. But, to me, that's why we have these top authors on. And usually they write multiple books. and they're very prolific authors, and they usually know their marks. I mean, sometimes I have to come in and carry a little bit. I don't mind that, but it's when you really have to carry somebody and put them on your back and drag them across the finish line, and you're trying to figure out how to sell them. You know, you've been through that. You're like, okay, I guess I'm going to sell your ass because you can't sell.
You know, it's interesting. We're doing this. This is our first time meeting, but I help people. I'm a book writing coach as well. I'm off to Singapore in a week to go work and do a book launch for 13 authors that I took through the publishing process to get them to where they are. Most of them reached bestseller status, at least in new releases on Amazon. And we're doing a book launch. We're inviting the media in Singapore over. Channel News Asia is a channel, CNA, the radio show, and as well as the TV show and a publication, a print publication, to come for the launch party. These are 12 authors, all of whom have been media trained by me because they've been interviewed for my CBS show here in Vegas. And I think I can refer them to you, Chris. How would you like to have Singapore? They're all super successful people, super smart. They would love to be interviewed by you.
Let's take a look at them.
I'll bring them all, send them over to you. But that just hit me. So you want these authors? I got 13 brand new published authors, all of whom are super.
Now, are they independent authors, or they put through major publishers?
No, they can go through major publishers. We got them all through Amazon. Next step is to take them maybe to Random House or some of the other, Time Warner, Penguin. Yeah. That's all too, but the key is get it done.
Yeah, because we notice there's a huge difference between independent authors, published authors, and the ones that come from the big houses. There's some the big houses must sit down with them and go through things, and like the other thing is too is the big houses they go through like PR days where they go through 30 interviews in a day. It's pretty pounding and crazy, but they
get used to it.
Yeah, but we notice the difference between independent authors, and so we look at them a little bit harder. Yeah. And
I would make sure that some of them I wouldn't recommend to you. Some of them I would. And I'd be very selective because I wouldn't risk my reputation and or new friendship with you by bringing people to you that would turn a blank. But they've all been through my media training.
There you go. So as we go out, tell us people how they can utilize your services, how they can onboard with you, how they can reach out, how they can see your websites and find out more about you.
Can they see the link that is in the chat? Or are they
can't. Okay. There'll be a link on the chrisvossshow.com. And then, of course, we bookend it on the audio of the show.
Here it is. getinterviewedguaranteed.com/meet with Mitch. That's getinterviewguaranteed.com/meet with Mitch. Third time because I'm a radio guy. Getinterviewedguaranteed.com/meet with Mitch. That's where you can book a complimentary, only because you're on Chris Voss show, a meeting with me to discuss how you can use media to your advantage to leverage your brand, your book, your business to the next level.
There you go. Thank you very much, Mitch, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I will be referring great qualified clients to you in the future. And, of course, I want you on my show in the near future as well when you're back in Vegas.
I would love to do that. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, let's do it.
I need at least 5 new subscribers to the show. And now you're going to have a huge audience. I don't mean to put it that way. I'm just saying I'll only attract 5 people that will like me on your show. And the rest of your people are going to go, nah, I don't think so.
You'll get good guests out of it because I only interview authors.
There you go.
They're all authors. Well, yeah. I don't know if you've written a book, but if you have, great. Oh, then you're perfect. You bring your book. We'll talk about
leadership. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So thank you for coming on, Mitch. Thanks, Master Team. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one of the TikTokity, all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.